Welcome to the Real Board Loft. I'm Trip Forman. Today we're here with Matt Biolos in the shaping room, and we are talking about a new shortboard, high-performance shortboard, the Lost Mayhem Big Rig. There's been a lot of big guy shortboards out there, so this is not the very first big guy shortboard to hit the racks or hit the water, but this one definitely has a great story behind it with one of your top team riders, Cole Houshmand, being a test pilot. I'm sure yourself and a lot of the team riding this board. By following what you guys are doing, there's actually a lot more people than you would think riding this board. Not only just big guys, but I mean, there's a lot of medium guys. And,
medium guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of medium guys, medium large guys, and so big rig is rigging. So let's talk about it.
You know, it's called the big rig, the big rig driver, because it's based on the chassis of a driver 3.0. You know, but it doesn't necessarily mean big rig like it's only for big rigs. It's the board is a big rig. You know?
Okay, all right.
So it's like you can be a 5'6", 175 pound, 180 pound guy who works too much and has a real life, but you know you're struggling. Maybe you've been riding mid lengths or fish or hybrids, but you really want to ride a shortboard. I know I could rip a shortboard still. You know, you're that guy.
Yeah.
So we just kind of wanted to do a shortboard that anybody could ride. You know, where the dims are like make sense. So. You know, we scaled this thing from like 5'10" up into the 7.2s range, but the starting point was kind of wrapped around boards we were making Cole. You know, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", in the 34 liter range. But then as it gets bigger, it scales up more dramatically. So, you know, guys like me who are 6'1", 200 plus pounds, you know, I can ride a 6'10" and really enjoy it, or a 6'8" squash tail, 6'10" for bigger waves, and kind of enjoy it any way or the other. The adjustments we made to kind of make it an everyman's board, it's not just taking the driver 3.0 and enlarging it. We actually made a few other adjustments. We lowered the entry rocker. You know, we kind of, instead of as much curve, like in about 2 feet from the nose, the standard board would kind of curve a little more aggressively here.
Right.
We relaxed it a little bit based off of a more, you know, relaxed, easier to paddle, built-in speed entry rocker, so it gets up and going, but not so flat like it's a fish or anything. You still got a little pop in the nose. You're not going to poke. We also carried the thickness flow a little more forward, so it doesn't scoop out as much here. It doesn't look like an elf shoe as much.
Okay.
You know?
Yep.
Carry the stringer line a little farther forward, but you know, maybe 18 inches, 1 foot from the nose. It's still got like a volume up here, but we blend it, we roll the deck and make it so the rails don't look too thick and chunky up there. So the board paddles good, and when you jump up, it's got that forward momentum, that inertia built in. To balance it, what's really worked out cool is it's still got a super modern 2025 bend in the tail.
Okay.
You know, it's got an aggressive tail rocker. It's got a nice deep concave going through it, so the stringer line's kind of straight. There's a double, which means it's even straighter water going through here, and then the rail line stays kind of high and then kicks, so you get that like kind of ball bearing effect right here under your back foot. It's also, with, you know, everyday surfers in mind, you don't have to be planted right on the leash plug to turn this thing. You know, the rockers, it's got enough tail rocker and it bends up early enough in the tail that you can kind of have it has an open happy area.
Okay.
It's got a live area where if you're not like a kicktail guy, you don't have to be all the way back on the wedge. You can surf this thing, you know, standing here. As long as you're basically standing on or behind the front fins, you can turn this board, square it up, cut backs, maneuver it. And, you know, the whole idea is it's just like, we see all our surf stars and all our surf heroes ripping on these performance shortboards, and we want to rip. I'm in my mid-50s. You know, guys work too much. Guys have families. They have kids. They gain weight. They slow down. So we wanted to make something that made sense for them, so they don't feel like they have to ride a fish, or they have to ride a mid-length, or they have to ride a fun board. This is kind of like a bit of an ego, you know, a bit of a like ego booster. You're still walking down the beach, you got a pointy nose, pulled in, bump squash tail, cutting edge, kind of modern shortboard for the everyday schmuck.
Well, I mean, you have trestles right in your backyard. I mean, it's like the high performance wave of the world. I mean, it's great to hear.
That's another ego booster.
But having like a bigger sweet spot back here, I mean, we've all stood in the wrong place, like stood a little bit too far forward, push, and there's like, like nothing. So like knowing that it's got a little bit more open spot, like where you can get up and go, like, and it's still going to get up and go, is good to hear.
I agree. And the poly, the tail patch on the poly is developed to work with that. It comes up like 20 inches.
Okay.
So as long as you're kind of in this like volant tail patch kind of tonal contrast, you're pretty much in the zone. And if you're on really good waves, you can wiggle your foot back, widen your stance, lower your butt, and really go to town on this thing. A lot of good surfers have been out test riding it, and guys that work here in the factory, some of the pros. Cole helped us get it started. Myself and my friends were all kind of loving it.
Right.
It's got me riding a tri-fin pointy nose thruster for the first time in a few years.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe since pre-COVID.
I mean, we're definitely seeing people, going back towards, I want to turn more, rather than go straight or just go straight and fast.
Yeah.
And so this is good news for sure. Let's talk about Lightspeed 2.
Lightspeed 2 is just now rolling out. We've been working on it for, I don't know, a good 18 months, getting all the materials and layups correct. It's kind of going live just in this month. We just got our first production coming off the line. So we just figured that bigger the board, you kind of want them light.
Mm-hmm.
How I get away with riding big boards, I like to ride big boards. I surf really crowded waves. I'm 20, 30 years older than half the crowd nowadays. I like to have extra foam. I like to catch waves early, but I also like to be able to throw the board around.
Yep.
So when you have a really light board, as it gets bigger, it kind of reduces the bulk and the size.
Mm-hmm.
You can still throw it around, it's still playful. You can be at the bottom of the wave and throw it to the top without as much delay. So I really like using lightweight epoxy constructions in my bigger boards. So we thought that this would be a great model to roll out the Lightspeed 2 in. The Lightspeed 2, basically the same as Lightspeed 1, except we've removed all the carbon and we replaced the carbon with this special weave of direct size S-glass. It's a really high tensile strength. You can see the strip. It's no longer black. Now it's white. We kind of jokingly call it white speed. The tail patch as well, we got rid of the fused carbon, and now the tail patch is a Negra. So It creates this X pattern because there's a Negra still woven into the top sheet, but now we have a Negra tail patch as well. It creates this really cool but clear X pattern in the tail, gives some reinforcement under the back foot, and in the bottom, like the top, we got rid of the carbon fiber and the strip goes nose to tail. On the bottom, it's the S-glass, direct size, unidirectional, high tensile strength, clear fiberglass. Lightspeed 2, it's a carbon neutral surfboard.
Talk to us about how this thing feels. Obviously it's going to feel good in like glass, like when it's just like the surface of the water is completely smooth, right? And so everybody sometimes is a little bit hesitant, EPS epoxy, like when there's bump, but Trestles isn't always perfect. There's always like a little wind bump, like midday. How does this thing feel in that?
Trestles is actually usually more fun with a little wind bump because it gives you a little coping at the lips. You can actually hit the lip rather than just doing carves. Offshore Trestles, it kind of gets slow. It's not like a beach break where offshore makes it better.
Right,
it looks pretty, but it's not necessarily easier or more fun to surf. So the thing with the Lightspeed 2 is what we did is by getting rid of the carbon, because carbon's known as like kind of chattery, kind of electric. It's got an electric positive liveliness to it, but at the same time, sometimes it can feel a little too rigid or too snappy, too quick. So we started initially with Lightspeed 1. It always had the Negra deck, the nose to tail Negra deck. But what we did is we expanded on the Negra. We put it more in the tail patch. We got rid of the carbon and replaced it with regular glass to try and kind of neutralize the chatteriness.
Yeah, dampen it a bit.
Soften the flex, retain the strength, but make it a little more neutral, a little more damp, a little more forgiving.
Okay.
I think as epoxy builds get more and more prevalent in the market over the last decade, 15 years from all the top brands, I think we're getting better and better at making them ride in a neutral manner where you can take them and ride Indo, you can surf Hawaii, you can kind of surf all over. But it's an evolutionary process to try and make them so they're not so chattery. And I also think that as a tribe, as a culture of surfers, we're getting more and more comfortable using epoxy in varied situations.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
EPS epoxy. In the end, though, we still sell far and away more polyester boards than we do epoxies. You know, it's Lightspeed,
Black Sheep.
Black Sheep, Double Dart. You know, it's still a minority share of our surfboard manufacturing and sales.
Yeah. Let's talk about the durability of the deck, because one of the things that like kind of brings people over to like the original Lightspeed and now Lightspeed 2 is getting a board like as light as the single glass boards, but having it obviously going to last a lot longer because the deck isn't going to start like caving in.
Yep.
We still going to see that, like the deck durability in Lightspeed 2?
Oh yeah, it's the same glassing schedule. It's just the only thing that's different is this is now a clear fiberglass instead of carbon.
Okay.
So we've done the testing. But by having the spine down the center, and it's a 2-inch, you know, 2.5 inches wide, as you do dent the deck in, you get like a traditional heel and toe dent with that arch, that natural arch bar built in. We still have, you know, it's 2 full layers of glass. There's the bottom layer on the deck is a 5 ounce, which means it's 6 ounce running nose to tail, 4 ounce across, and then it's got interwoven into it all the way across. You can always see the Inegra strands that go across it. And that Inegra adds a dampening effect. More so than anything, it adds dampening under your feet. That was from the start. Then you have the S-Glass direct size unwashed for strength there. Then the whole thing's wrapped with an S-Glass top, a 4 ounce S-Glass over the top. The bottom also has a 5 ounce, although on the bigger boards, when you get up to 6.6, 6.8, 7.0, we use 6 ounce for the bottom. But the 5 ounce bottom, once again, nose to tail, 6 ounce woven with side to side 4 ounce.
Okay.
And the bigger boards, we switched to just straight 6 ounce, a little stronger.
Okay.
Because the skin to foam ratio becomes higher, and you can get away with more glass because it's a bigger, thicker board, and it still feels light. So yeah, these are glass. They basically feel like an ultralight team poly board.
Right.
They feel like an ultralight blank with 1 layer of glass, but they're much stronger. They're not indestructible. You can break them, you can dent them, you get dings. They're a high performance surfboard.
Yeah.
But basically, these boards right off the rack are the same weight or lighter as an ultralight disposable team board.
Right. Let's talk about, I mean, this board is big rig driver is high performance, and you're going for high performance in the water. Let's talk about fin recommendations. Like what do people want to put in here to get the best performance out of the board? You
know, there's so many good fins in both the FCS and Future range. This board has a lot of tail rocker. So a board with a deep concave, aggressive tail rocker, I tend to push people towards a more rakey fin. Okay. You know, a fin with a good base and a pulled back rake tip to extend drive through a lot of tail rocker. On flatter boards, hybrids, fish, you know, that's where you get into more like a vertical fin, you know, more of a pivot fin, because the board's already got the drive, and you're using a fin that's not as pulled back to make the turn. Okay. And the extreme version of that would be like, you know, keels or split keels on quads. But this board has a good amount of tail rockers, so whatever your preference, I recommend a fin that sits more in the rake and the drive categories, whether it's our templates or so many good ones that are out there. FCS Futures, I think they're both great systems. They both have a great product, great line, and it's personal preference. Okay, awesome, Matt. Well, hey, thank you so much for all the info on this board. Like right out of the blocks, this thing's been moving out of the shop. So it's good to get the story behind the big rig driver, not just like expanded dimensions, but like all the little secret tweaks that are in it. Viewers, anybody out there interested in the big rig driver, whether it be stock or custom, or would like to place an order, you can always reach us at the shop, 252-987-6000, or look us up online, realwatersports.com/surfing. Thanks for tuning in.